This is Interview Channel on YouTube, and my name is Mike, and I'm here with uh, Danzel Monk Sr., who's a podcaster out of New York, and his podcast is called Probe Analysis. Welcome, Danzel. So one of the things, the reason we're having a discussion today is Danzel has come up with some really interesting and I think powerful and creative ideas that
Mike.
people could use to have some influence over the news media. And we feel like that's necessary today. The public has to put the mainstream news media on notice and let them know that they've done some pretty bad things in the last 10 years and they need to be corrected. So what what I wanted to do in this episode is discuss with Danzel his ideas for how we can try to influence the news media. Um, so Danzel, you're the whole premise behind your ideas is that the news media has been lies to us all the time, right? But we've especially learned about some specific lies because they've had to admit to them recently. I was wondering if you could just talk about that a little bit. These
Yes,
lies.
you're absolutely right. They have been lying for a long time. It's funny to hear somebody like Dr. Drew say that the media has been lying for a long time, and he just realized it was true that they've been lying. So he acknowledged that. And yes, the good thing about it, as you mentioned, is that a couple of those lies that they've told, they've been forced to admit it. When they lied about Biden's cognitive ability, his ability to function properly. They had that going for years. It wasn't just a few months, but it was literally years that went on, knowing that they were lying, but they never admitted it until after his debate with Trump during the election. And that became known to the public, and then they had to admit it. And then afterwards, of course, not everybody admitted it at first, but eventually it became so commonly known that they had to stop saying that he was okay. So yeah, that's a great example. But if you magnify that about 1,000 times, you see, begin to realize just how bad the problem is. It's not just with his mental state that they lied about. They lied about millions of things. And yet all of those lies are compounded in our public, and the public is affected by those lies. And those lies create American citizens that hate people or things or concepts or policies for the wrong reason. And then we end up going after each other's throats, and we're at war with each other when the manipulators behind us are lying to us that keeps us at each other's throats. This becomes a very dangerous situation. And I think that understanding that you've been lied to and how to respond to those lies is the only thing that's going to help us prevent us from being driven to a point of state of a civil war.
So you're kind of saying that it's the lies that are creating the conflict. Is that?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because, see, you and I can disagree without being disagreeable. I don't have to agree with you, but if I don't agree with you, I can just debate you, discuss the dialogue with you, and we'll eventually figure out who's right or who's wrong. We may even agree to disagree. But if everything that we are doing is based upon a lie, there's no release for or solution. Lies only build up more and more conflict, and it can never go anywhere but disaster. So that's my problem, my concern. Freedom of speech has always been a very powerful freedom that we have in our country, and the freedom to dialogue and discuss our differences. But if I can shut you down and shut your view down, and I can tell a lie and only my lie stands, that's no longer freedom.
Right.
That becomes a prelude for dictatorship, and that dictatorship and is how dictatorships in other countries have started. You by that by shutting down your right to have your voice heard, and setting up a dichotomy of what truth is, even when it's not the truth, and forcing everybody to submit to that false idea. It's a dangerous policy.
Yeah. And as I recall, when we discussed this earlier, you also said you feel like this applies to the social media companies too, right? Not just the news media.
Actually, it applies to everybody. So you see, if it doesn't apply to everybody, it then is meaningless. So you can't just have some people that are accountable for telling the truth and are not and are to be held accountable when they lie, and then other people can lie all they want to and not be held accountable. That's part of the problem. Is that some people are able to lie and get away with it, and others are not allowed to lie. So my point is that yes, it's across the board. Education, history, media, politics, wherever you are, religion, wherever you are. truth is supposed to be the bottom line, and you cannot compromise truth and have a healthy society.
So you feel like so the lying is creating all this tension and conflict in society. It's coming from it's being the lies are being supported by the news media and the tech companies, but other people too. And you feel, we've seen the news media being forced to admit to some of these lies, right? Like you mentioned, like Biden's cognitive state, right?
Right,
For
right,
4 years, right? So they've had to admit, like for 4 years, we've been covering this up. So, but you feel that there's still a problem, right? They've been forced to admit it in a way, but you feel like they need to do more. And I was wondering if you could just explain that,
I'm
because
glad you asked.
it's like a key psychological insight you have about
Yeah,
this.
yeah, I'm glad you asked that because you see, just admitting one lie is not going to exonerate you from the five or six or seven other lies you told. Um, we have to get to a place where we hold everybody to a high standard of honesty. And when you do that, you eliminate the encouragement of people lying. See, when you do not confront a liar, and I mean, I'm not talking about behind closed doors over beer. I'm talking about confront them in public where everybody can see you confronting them. If you do not do that, you encourage them to continue doing it. If I confront you about a lie you told in private, no one else is going to know that. And after I leave you, you don't have to tell anybody I confronted you. You can get right back out there in public and do what you've been doing all the time. But if I confront you in the public and everybody sees me confront you, it's going to be very hard for you to practice that again when you get in public.
Right. So,
So, so that's my key is that we have to find a way to publicly confront people so that they realize that if I tell this lie again, or if I tell another lie, I'm going to be confronted publicly. It's not going to be that easy for me. So I
yeah,
got to think twice now about what I say and how I say it. That hasn't been going on. It hasn't been happening in media, or it happens once in a while, but not enough. It hasn't happened in politics. The media personality, and they're not held accountable like that. And so by failing to do that, you encourage them to keep on lying because there's no consequences.
so, so your solution to this problem is what? You've got some ideas about how we can get them to publicly confront them. What are your ideas?
Great question. My first policy is that we have to first nail the lie. Make sure you understand it accurately and completely. If you say 1 + 1 = 3, and I know that I can verify that that's a lie, then I can take the next step. But if you say 1 + 1 = 2, and I don't agree with you, that's not a lie. My failure to understand the truth is not your problem. So it's very important that in our team, this happened. Our team people who accuse someone of lying when they weren't lying. You can't go anywhere. You really can't. You have to first be able to do that. Once you've established that, though, the next step is to make sure that you understand how to articulate it. Because, see, you can understand somebody lie, but not know how to articulate the lie they told. And you get in the public and you start running off the mouth and you start spewing alphabet soup. And nobody's understanding what you're saying, you're not going to help anything, right?
Right.
So communication is very important too. The communication skills. So recognizing the lie, understanding what it is, and being able to accurately and clearly communicate the lie as it is, what it is, to demonstrate what it is. So you have those two grounds covered. Once you have that ability, then you have to know who the person was that lied. You have to be able to document their lie. Because if you can't document their lie, calling them a liar means nothing. I can call you a liar, but that doesn't mean anything. You're just calling each other names without any receipts means nothing. That's also a part of our problem. We've been able to get away with just calling people names and lies without having to be able to prove anything. In our media, you saw how many times they lied about Trump saying something that he didn't really say, and the media ran with it, and people believed it, and no one was accountable for proving that he had actually lied.
Right.
And I'm talking about big people, not just small people, but large people. Obama, Kamala Harris. A lot of people lied about things that Trump said or was supposed to have said, and were never held accountable for proving it, even in media.
Wow.
So having that ability is very important on our part because if we don't do what I'm trying to explain, we become a part of the problem and we remain a part of the problem and we're not a part of the solution. My goal is to be a solution to the problem rather than a part of the problem by what we do and how we do it recklessly. So you got the lie, you've explained it clearly, you understand who lied, you have the receipts to prove that they lied. What do you do with that information? Do you just get on your podcast or in your family dinner and complain about it? No, because that's not going to resolve anything. My mother used to tell me this when we were young. She says, if you cut up in the street, that's where I'm gonna cut you behind at.
Hmm.
In other words, wherever you mess up at, I'm gonna get you right there.
Yeah.
And because I knew she was gonna get me wherever I messed up at, I made sure I didn't mess up where I didn't want to get got.
Yeah.
That's my philosophy. Get them get them in the public where they made told a lie, confront them in the public, and make them acknowledge it or defend themselves.
Okay. But so confront them in public. So you have ideas about how to do that. And that's what
I
I
sure
think this
do.
is the really creative part. I want to establish first, though,
Mhm.
it sounds like what you're saying is and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like what you're saying, it's based on the idea that we all have to have an absolute dedication to the truth, right?
Wow, that's a great
It,
question.
it seems like it, like it's like no matter what, that's the highest, dedicate, truth or principle that we have to live by in a way. It sounds like that's what you're saying.
Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. And I think that people don't take this seriously. And the reason why they don't take it seriously is because we've been allowed for so long to get away with riffraff. Everybody have the okie doke. Everybody knows how to do the okie doke. And it's like the okie doke has become the norm. Everybody's lying about their weight, how much they weigh. Everybody's lying about what degrees they have. Everybody's lying about how much money they make. Lies has become the norm. And it's almost abnormal and strange to be dedicated to
that's,
honesty.
that's right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's right. That's a good point,
It's
man.
sad. It's
It's
sad, but that's the way
strange.
it
Yeah.
is. But the reason is because we've allowed that to go on for so long.
Right.
And anytime you allow something to go on so long, it becomes the norm.
Yeah.
Automatically, that's just the way things are. And so that has to be undone. And the
Right.
only way you undo that is by people who are not willing to abide by that riffraff. They're not willing to abide by that foolishness. That takes time because, again, when you have a society that's so trained with lying and so comfortable with it, it makes them uncomfortable when you challenge lies. And I know people today who are very angry will get angry with you for trying to correct them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, even if you correct the way you pronounce their name, it's sad, but that's the mentality that we have to fight against. So I'm not denying that we're fighting an uphill battle,
Right.
but without fighting that battle, we are inviting disaster. So
Right.
we have really no choice in this matter. We have no choice. We have no choice in this matter. We cannot allow our fear of being objected to, of being accused, of being offensive. We can't allow those fears to prevent us from standing up to people when they are bold-faced lying and try to get them to understand truth.
Right. So so getting to your ideas about how to stand up to them. So it's it, it, we I understand your point that we're talking about everyone here, right?
Right.
But there's an aspect to your idea that's extremely creative, I thought, and I was wondering if you could talk about that, and that is
Yeah. Okay. Well, see, here we go. Here we go. So now, what I've done, I'm a preacher. I'm a preacher. I'm a minister. So I believe in God, and I get my ideas from biblical principles, most of the time. And if I don't, right, if it's not biblical, I sign up with the voice too much. But a biblical principle in the Bible is that lies have to be confronted. In Numbers 32:22, I think it's 23, it says, be sure your sins will find you out. In other words, when you do something wrong, you may not get exposed right away, but eventually it's going to be found out. Okay. In 2 Samuel chapter 12, or actually chapter 11, King David committed a horrible sin with Bathsheba. And then he ended, to cover up the sin, he had her husband killed, literally had him killed, and went on business as usual, like nothing ever happened. And in the 12th chapter of 2 Samuel, God sends the prophet Nathan to him to confront him about the sin he committed, that he was acting like he didn't do it. And it was only after he was confronted, I mean, literally bold-faced confronted, that David repented. Had Nathan not approached him, he probably went on forever without any problem. Another last scripture I'm going to give you about this before I get into my final example is Galatians chapter 2. In Galatians chapter 2, the Bible tells us that Paul had to withstand Peter. Peter withdrew himself from the Christians and started hanging out when Jews came from Jerusalem or Judea. and he started acting in an unseemly way, rejecting his Christian brothers in order to gain favor with his Jewish brothers. So Paul saw this attitude, and Paul says that when I saw that he did not conduct himself properly, I withstood him to his face. He said, and I said to him before them all. In other words, I got him in front of all of his homies. And I thought that was profound. So my point is that when we get our evidence together of these media personnel, as an example, who told a bold-faced lie, we should document this, maybe make some signs, put the lie that they told on the sign, maybe the date that they told, or what program they were on when they told it. Go out in front of their media where they work at, and have a rally in front of their. No, we don't do this. Why don't we have this?
Right.
We don't have. No one ever goes out when they tell a bold-faced lie. Like remember, like there are some people who still haven't admitted that they lied about the Biden mental state. Some have, some haven't. Why aren't we out there in front of their studios asking to explain why? There are people that lied about Trump. They lied about the 2020 election. They lied about COVID. They lied about 1,001 different things. And these are, so many lies are so blatant and easy to prove that we should be documenting them and then go into their studios. Get a group of people together. Now, I don't live in your city. You don't live in mine. But we all have, every city has a news studio.
Right.
And they have that gives you, and I see news every day that's lying. I see every day I'm seeing a news person tell some kind of bold-faced lie.
Right.
Why not hold our news media in our local areas accountable for the lies that they tell?
Right.
And we need to do this consistently. See, if you don't do it, if it doesn't become a regular part of your routine in your community, they're not going to fear you, and they're not going to fear telling you a lie. But if they know that, wait a minute, if I tell this lie tomorrow or the day after, I'm going to have a crowd of people outside in front of our studio.
Yeah.
Talking about that lie you told, not about the news that you were reporting on, not about the way the dress that you wore or the suit you wore that day. I'm not going to be talking about the price of cheese. They're going to be talking about the lie the bold-faced lie you told to the audience who are trusting you for good information.
Right.
They're going to be out there asking you, why did you say this? And I mean, document it. Why did you say these words?
Yeah.
And explain to us why. And will you admit that it was a lie?
Right.
And if you don't, we're going to stay here. We'll be out here tomorrow.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That kind of pressure will force people to be concerned about how they're expressing themselves when it comes to the public.
It's such a creative idea, and to me it's brilliant. But because you're taking the idea of people having a rally or a protest, right, or picketing.
They do it for all other kind of things, right?
And it's usually for like political actions of corporate. It's usually political actions, like policies, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's corporations, right?
Yeah.
But you never think of it.
Never the people.
Yeah.
The person that told the lie, the person that's behind it. That's right. You don't get to them.
But it's the application to the media is what I'm getting at. I don't think anyone's ever thought of that. Protesting lies from the media. It's brilliant. And I think what was I going to say? Oh, I was going to say that the way that people usually out the media for their lies, it's just on social media. And that's not a direct confrontation, right? It's Twitter, repeating things on Twitter, and the person's never really directly confronted and forced to face this, right? Exactly. No one's looking them in the eye, right?
That's the problem. That is the problem. But I think that you made a good point, and I'm glad you brought this up because that's where I get a lot of my information from. We have a great deal of great resources in social media who have risen up, who have actually caused the demise of legacy media because these other sources are willing to tell the truth. They're willing to investigate, and they're willing to dig up this information. And that's where it's coming from. So we have a resource we can go to and get the information. But once we get it, it's not going to do any good to leave it there. We have to take that information, go to our local sources that are promoting those lies, and force them to face it because that will discredit them. And it will also cause them to realize that I can't just do this and get away with it. I think that's so pertinent to what I'm saying. So important. We have to stop letting people feel comfortable lying. Right. On my Substack, I had an article where I talked about why the left media are so comfortable lying to their viewers. And the reason is because there's no accountability. They don't have a fear of anything happening.
Right.
You think that they knew that they would get caught out in front of their studio the next day for telling a bold-faced lie that they would be doing it easily?
Right.
They wouldn't be doing it.
Right.
But we have to do that consistently. And I mean, some of our people, we have this problem. If I'm not a big name, I don't have no power. If I'm not a well-known person, but that's the lie of the enemy. That's just foolish. Right. We all have power as individuals. And you can be a nobody and get information about a lie that was told in media. Get you a group of your homies together and put some signs together, and on your off day, go up there to those studios and demonstrate. That gives you power. That
It's a
makes you
great.
important. You
It's
don't
a
have to be a personality. You can be you're a
yeah.
human citizen. You're an American citizen. That gives you power that you didn't have before, and gives you a voice you didn't have before. They will respect that.
Right. The reason I wanted to share this is it's such a great idea. And here's part of the point. So many people, right? There are so many people on social media,
Yes,
podcasters, people posting YouTube videos, posting stuff on Twitter and social media,
yes,
outing these lies, right? But
yes.
it's all in the ether, right?
Right,
It's all virtual. So
right.
here's my point. There's like a ready army of people who recognize
Foot
this,
soldiers.
right? And I thought it would be really neat to share this idea because it could inspire. My hope is that it would inspire all these people who see these lies, to group together and do what you're suggesting. Go out and protest, march on the sidewalk outside
Excellent.
with signs, right?
Right.
It's a
Yes.
great idea.
But see, and that's why I'm stressing so much. It's very important that it be done right with taste. It has to be done with wisdom because you have a lot of unstable people around, and you don't want to get unstable people doing your bidding for you because they're going to mess things up. You know, it's very important that you are very careful about who you select to come to be with you to do this. There's always going to be Asian provocateurs that's going to try to mess it up and make it look like a nutcase thing. Because remember, when you start doing this, it makes the people who are telling the lies very nervous,
Yeah.
and they're going to have to try to retaliate. And the way they usually retaliate is by trying to make you look like a buffoon.
Right. Right.
Now, you look at the hearings that's going on right now, on the confirmation hearings right now with the Trump picks, with the cabins, and you look at the way the Democrats are reacting to them. They know that these people are dangerous to them.
Right.
So when they get to question them, they're asking all kind of stupid questions
Right.
to try to make them look like they're crazy and that they're unpatriotic and that they're fools.
Right.
And so that's because they're trying to protect themselves. They're protecting themselves from the lies that they told that they don't want exposed. They're protecting themselves from the crimes they committed that they don't want investigated. So
Yeah.
to do that, they have to criminalize the person that's running for this position. So we don't want to give them weapons against us by misconducting ourselves. You notice in the hearings, I think it's a good example. They were looking for things that the people that's applying for these jobs, they were looking for things that they've done in the past that incriminates them,
Right.
and they focus on those things as justification as to why they should not be allowed to have this position.
Right.
So now the person that's running for the job now has to think very carefully: did I do something wrong? If I did something wrong, when I come to this hearing, I should be prepared to deal with that question because that's my point. They should be like you should be armed and extremely dangerous when it comes to those questions. Some of them weren't prepared for it. I noticed that when some of the questions, and I
Right.
was upset about that because they're really good picks. But if you let them go dig into your past and find something that we maybe did wrong or didn't do the right way, and use that as an example
Yeah.
as to why you should be accepted, and you can't respond properly to it, you give them a weapon.
Right.
So come clean. Listen, 50 years ago, I was an alcoholic and I did some foolish things. That's not me today. Come ready to explain that
Hmm.
so that they can't use your alcoholism a couple of years ago to try to discredit you now. That's my point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amen. So that's my only concern is that we are tight, we're well mannered, professional. I mean, you can raise your voice. I mean, you should be mad. But don't let your anger and frustration cause you to act disorderly and foolishly, where they can begin to take attention away from the actual purpose that you're out there for.
Right. Right. Right.
Make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's so I mean everything you're talking about here from outing, lies and you know, having being well behaved or, when you do this, it's all about integrity in a way, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Just holding yourself to high levels of integrity.
Yes, and
Um,
I don't. By saying that, thank you for making that point. I'm not saying that you have to be perfect
right.
because none of us are perfect. But if someone does something wrong and you point that out to them, what you've done is irrelevant because you're not the one that's on the TV.
Right.
You're not the one that's claiming to be presenting news and information. You see, so you're on the higher ground, even if you can be an alcoholic,
It's a really good
a
point.
drug dealer,
Right.
you
Right.
can be a hobo on the street, homeless. It'll make a difference.
Right. Right.
If you are telling the truth about something, that's the issue. Just don't do anything while you're telling that truth to give them a justification to deviate or deflect from the truth.
Right.
Because the way if you do the wrong things, I've seen this happen in debates many times.
I'm sorry, in the what?
In debates,
Oh, debates. Okay.
where you're making an excellent point, but you do something stupid, and you give the person that you're making a point with a excuse to deviate from the point you've made.
Yeah.
If you take attention off that point, you defeat the purpose.
Right.
If you're cussing somebody out while you're talking, they can focus on your cussing
Right.
and ignore the integrity of your argument.
Right. Right.
So that's my point.
That's
You
a
don't
great
have to be
point.
a wonderful person, a perfect person, or well-known, high. I mean, it would be nice if you were, but listen, no, very few of us are. But at least make sure you conduct yourself in a way that keeps the attention on the lie and on the
Right.
liar.
Right. Right.
That's very important.
That's great. That's great. Well, I think we have to end now, but I really appreciate this. I think it's the whole set of ideas you just presented is really insightful.
Amen.
And like I said, really creative. I think
Thank you.
if I hope that other people can hear about this because I really think it could inspire, especially there are so many, like I said, there are so many people on social media who have been outing these lies for years, right?
Yes.
But it doesn't seem to have a huge impact. But um,
It won't until we do this.
let me ask you this: would you say that the ultimate goal would be to get some public statement of apology?
Yes, that is
From the media,
goal.
like on air, saying
Yes.
we need to apologize about this lie we perpetuate. Is that the ultimate goal? Do you
That is
think?
the ultimate goal. Let me
Yeah.
tell you what happened. I remember seeing on PBD, on Valuetainment, not long ago. They had Chris Como on, and they become friends with Chris Como, and they had him on his show, and they actually challenged him about the lies he told during COVID time,
Wow.
and they played the clips of his lies on the show while they were. I thought that was brilliant.
Wow.
I thought that was brilliant. It was just, and they really put him on the hot seat. Now he didn't come clean as he should have, but he did kind of vacillate and admit that he was wrong, and so he did kind of like wiggle. But the point
Right.
is that they challenged him, and they did it publicly,
It,
and they
it,
did it friendly with taste and
yeah.
tact, but they did it, and I
It,
thought that's what needs to be
yeah.
done.
Yeah. It reminds me of, do you remember, Joe Rogan had the CNN doctor. I forget his name right now because I don't watch CNN, but, um, oh, I know you know who I'm talking about, but this celebrity doctor, he's an Indian guy, Indian
What a
American,
Cheryl?
huh?
What a Cheryl?
I can't remember,
Okay, good.
but he was he disparaged he and CNN disparaged ivermectin, and when he was on Joe
Yes,
Rogan's show,
yes,
do you
I
remember that?
remember. Yes,
Joe Rogan confronted him about that, and he was
yeah.
trying to wiggle out of it, but finally he just admitted like, well, yeah, you're right. It was
That's my example.
we lied or whatever.
Another great example.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, absolutely. That's exactly what I'm talking about, man.
yeah,
It's so needed, it's important, and it will work. It
yeah.
will work. It will benefit people. It really will benefit people, and I'm looking forward to seeing that kind of thing done. I think God
Sanjay
for our
Gupta, that's who it is, right? Is it?
Sanjay Gupta. There you
Yes,
go.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
So,
I'm grateful for our social media people that are out there really killing it. They really are exposing some great stuff, and I'm hoping that it comes to we will really start challenging people in their faces.
yeah.
I want to say this before we call up. I'm doing the same thing in science, by the way.
Are you? Well,
I'm doing the same because for a long time, science has been used to basically lie about a lot of things that they say in science that they lie to the public about. And scientists have become such great, respected people that they've gotten to a point where they realize they can tell any kind of lie they want to and get away with it.
wow.
And the public has suffered as a result of it. The science it was the science about COVID that was told, that were lies about the science that helped promote the stuff that was going on.
Right.
And in science, there's also, of course, as a Christian, we talk a lot about creation and about how God created and the evidence that exists for how humans came into existence. And yet there's a whole community of scientists who object to the whole idea about God, and they're promoting the idea that it all happened by accident. And the lies that they've told over the years is phenomenal. They're
Wow.
coming out now. One guy, his name is Dr. James Tour. He's a PhD chemist, very well known, very well established. That he's had holds a buku number of patents, and he's a Christian. And he's been challenging. What I'm telling you, he's been actually going out challenging scientists. Come debate me in public.
Wow.
about
Wow.
this origin of life thing.
Interesting.
Because
Wow.
you lied about what you're saying. You're saying that we're
Wow.
close to answers. We're close to we understand. And you said we're nowhere near close. In fact, the more we know about science, the further away we get, and you know you're lying. And he's
Wow.
challenging with the science papers. He's blowing people's mind. He's driving people crazy, but he's
And
blowing their mind.
yeah, regardless of which side you're on, debate is, I mean, that's what's exciting and fun about living in
Yes,
this country, right? Freedom of speech
yes.
and the debate that it allows. And it's
Bring it.
having
That's right.
vigorous debate is,
That's right.
it's a thrill, and it helps everyone to reconcile their excuse me, their viewpoints to get to the truth, right?
That's
So
right. The only way you're going to get there. That's the
yeah,
only way you can get there.
yeah.
Excellent. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, well, let me how can people get to you if you want to share your social media or
Sure.
whatever you want, whatever.
Sure. I'm on Rumble at Denzel, Danzilsr. That's you can look at that Danzilsr, Danzilsr. I'm on Substack, Denzel Monk. And on my website is afjm.net, afjm.net. You can reach me there. And listen, I'm more than happy to hear from people because I love talking about stuff like this.
All right. Well, hey, thanks so much. Good chatting
You're
with you.
very welcome, man. Good to be with you again.
Okay.